It's a bunch of crazy stories written by the Brothers Grimm. And now you're gonna learn all about them, listening to the Brothers Grimm.
Students and scholars, friends and relations, welcome to the Brothers Dim podcast, where we examine the absurd little collection of fairy tales collected and written down by the Brothers Grimm in Germany in the early 19th century, including this week's story number 60, The Two Brothers. My name is Phil.
And my name is Mike.
Mike, how are you now?
I think I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. It's exciting times for you and I. Speaking of fantasy, it's a big game between us in fantasy football.
Oh, son of a... I totally forgot.
I won the first 7 games of the season.
Yeah,
I've lost a whole bunch of games in a row. I had a whole bunch of dumb reasons for doing that. Injuries at inopportune times and things, but
yeah. I'm only a game behind you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, almost everyone's only a game behind me at this point. Depending on how the points shake out, I might not make it to the playoffs at all, which seemed unfathomable 2 weeks ago.
That would be sad.
Additionally, this Sunday, my only child's 2nd birthday.
Son of a gun. Happy birthday, only child.
I know, but I will not be paying attention to that. Nay, for battle lines must be drawn between us. You and I, 2 friends, brothers, one might say. 2 brothers who shall fight, yes, fight. But then afterwards, even if someone gets a little bit decapitated, we can just sort of forgive and forget.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of decapitations in this story.
Yes, there are.
I don't want to spoil anything. But there's a lot, and one of the decapitations just straight up slapstick.
Yes. Yeah, this story is everywhere.
It is kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's also I haven't looked, but it has to be the longest one. Most of the stories are 1 to 3 pages. This is 17,
and it has to be like 8 stories stuck into one, but we can get that into a little bit. I'm excited for this one. So Mike, without further ado, would you please take us through the plot of Grimm's story number 60, The Two Brothers?
Oh boy, hold on to your hats. There were once 2 brothers. One was a rich goldsmith who was a terrible person, and one was a poor broom maker who was a nice guy. Now you think you know who the 2 brothers are now, but you don't. The poor one had twin sons. One day, the poor brother sees a golden bird in the woods. He throws a rock at it, because that's what you do with golden birds, but only manages to knock a golden feather off. He takes it to the rich brother, and he pays him handsomely for it. The next day, the poor brother is climbing a tree and finds the bird's nest with a golden egg in it. He takes that to the rich brother, who pays him handsomely for it as well. The rich brother tells him if he brings him the whole bird, he will pay him a huge sum. So finally, the poor brother does just that, manages to get the bird. Now, the rich brother knows a special property of this bird. Whoever eats the heart and liver of it will forever after find a gold piece under their pillow every morning upon waking. So he has his wife roast it and tells her he alone can eat it, nobody else. So she does so, but she has to leave the kitchen for a bit. And sure enough, at that time, the poor brother's twin sons happen by. They sometimes do for scraps of food here and there because they're poor and all. And they come upon the roasting bird. They decide to help and turn it on the spit a couple times, and as they do, a couple pieces drop into the drippings pan. They figure no one's going to miss that, so they eat them. The wife returns, sees them chewing, and assumes they must have eaten the heart and the liver, so she kills another chicken, substitutes its heart and liver. The rich brother eats the whole thing and goes to bed satisfied. When he wakes, though, there's no gold under his pillow.
Oh, no.
Meanwhile, the 2 boys start finding a gold piece under each of their pillows every morning. They and their father think it's great, but at one point, the father mentions this to the rich brother, who, in revenge, tells him the boys must be under the sway of the devil, and that he should cast them out.
Satan.
So he takes them into the middle of the forest and leaves them, as one does. The boys cast about for a while until they come across a huntsman. He tells them, they tell him their story, and he takes pity on them and has them come live with him. He teaches them to hunt, and meanwhile keeps each of their new gold pieces for them because they keep producing. Keeps those for them for when they ultimately need them. One day he decides they're ready to test themselves to prove their hunting prowess. They each make a trick shot, and he congratulates them. They are now real hunters. That night they're celebrating, but the boys tell him that while they're grateful for everything, they feel they should go out and see the world. Nothing would delight the huntsman more, though, so he gifts each of them a hunting dog and a rifle, then gives them a fancy silver dagger, and he says it's magic. If they ever split up, bury it into a tree, And forevermore, each side of the dagger will show the brothers' fate. If it's shiny, they're still good. If it's rusty, they're dead. So they go on their way. Off in the wide world, they're making their way through the land. They're getting low on food and realize they need to hunt some more game. So they come across a hare. But before they can kill it, the hare cries, "Dear hunters, do but let me live. 2 little ones to you I'll give," and gives them 2 of its own children. They can't bear to kill the baby bunnies, so they head out and the hares follow. Same thing happens with a fox. Gives them 2 of its young in return for not killing it. Same thing with a wolf, and then a bear, and then finally a lion, because I guess there's lions in the jungle in Germany too.
All sorts of creatures.
So at the end of all this, they each have a hare, a fox, a wolf, a bear, and a lion following them around. After some adventures, they find that there's nowhere suitable to accommodate the whole lot, so they decide it's time to split up. They jam the dagger deep into a tree trunk and part ways, each with his own menagerie, one east and one west. The younger of the 2 comes upon a town all hung with black draperies. After getting lodging with a barn for his whole his zoo, he asks about all the black. The innkeeper tells him there's a dragon that demands a virgin sacrifice once a year, and the princess of the land is the only maiden left, so she's due to die tomorrow. Many knights have tried to slay the dragon, but all died. He who does slay the dragon shall win the princess and the throne, though. In the morning, he decides to climb the dragon's hill. There's a church up there. There's 3 cups on the altar, and a note that says, "He who drains all 3 cups shall be strong enough to lift the sword buried at the threshold of the church." He finds the sword, but of course cannot lift it. So he drinks all 3 cups, feels strong, and is able to wield the sword with ease. Up comes the princess. She's surprised to find him there. He says he's going to save her. Soon enough, the 7-headed dragon shows up. They fight. He cuts off 3 of its heads, then another 3, and then its tail, and then his animals come in and tear it apart. The princess is delighted. She takes off her necklace and divides it among each of the animals, and then gives the hunter her handkerchief. He cuts out all 7 tongues and wraps them up in it. He's super sleepy, though, and so is she. He asks the lion to keep watch and takes a nap. The lion's sleepy too, so he asks the bear to keep watch, and so on down the line until the hare falls asleep and they're all left undefended. Meanwhile, the king's marshal comes back to make sure the dragon is satisfied with the sacrifice, and he finds the whole scene. He cuts off the hunter's head, takes the maiden, and heads home. She wakes up and he threatens her into lying about the whole thing. He claims her as bride, but she asks for a year and a day, so he agrees. In time, the animals wake up. After some blame game, the hare runs to fetch a healing root that they know of that's 200 miles away. They put the hunter back together, put the root in his mouth, and he wakes up. The hunter's sad that the maiden ran off, so he wanders the world for a while. After precisely a year, he happens to return to the same town, but now it's decked out in red instead of black. Innkeeper explains that last year the king's marshal fought and killed the dragon, and saved the princess, and the next day they're to be wed. The hunter bets the innkeeper 100 gold that he'll eat the king's bread there in the inn today. The innkeeper takes the bet. The hunter sends the hare to the castle to fetch some of the king's bread. So the rabbit dashes off, manages to avoid the guards and the dogs, and finds the princess. She recognizes the necklace on the hare and takes him in. He explains the situation, so she has the palace baker send a loaf of bread back with the rabbit. The innkeeper is impressed. They repeat this challenge with roast meat via the fox, vegetables via the wolf, pastry via the bear, and wine via the lion. Each time the animal goes off to the castle, fetches kingly foods, and brings it back. The hunter then wagers 1,000 gold that he will wed the princess this very day. The innkeeper bets his whole in on it. Meanwhile, the king asks the princess what's up with all the animals. She says she cannot answer directly, but tells him to summon the animal's master and he'll have his answer. So the king sends a servant, but the hunter requests royal clothing, a carriage, 6 horses, and attendants. The king agrees and sends it all, and the hunter shows up in all his finery. He reveals the dragon tongues, and the marshal is sentenced to being torn apart by 4 bulls. Now, you would think this is the end, right? But there's another brother.
Oh, boy.
So, anyway, the happy couple are reunited and married that very day. The innkeeper's in attendance, and he says he lost the bet fair and square. The new king says it's all good, tells him to keep his inn, and also gives him the 1,000 gold wager. The couple live in happiness for some time. The hunter still likes to go hunt, and one time he's out with the whole menagerie, and he sees a beautiful white deer. He has his attendants wait, and he gives chase with only his animals, because that always goes well. Before long, they're hopelessly lost, and night is falling. He makes camp for the night under a tree. Before long, he discovers an old woman up in the tree. She's bitterly cold, but afraid his animals will eat her if she comes down, so she throws down a wand. Says if he taps each animal, they'll do her no harm. He does so, and they all turn to stone. She then jumps down, reveals herself to be a witch, turns him to stone, and drags them all into a cavern with a whole bunch of other statues. Clearly, she's been doing this for a while. So, about this time, we find the other brother. He's been similarly traveling the country, didn't slay a dragon and marry a princess, though. At long last, he returns to the dagger in the tree. He sees his brother's side. It's half shiny, half rusty, so he knows something's weird here. He travels to the nearby town, and the guard mistakes him for his brother, what with them being twins and all the animals in tow and all that. So the guard goes forth to announce his return to the distraught queen. Brother decides he should keep up the ruse so that it'll better enable him to rescue his brother. So he tells the queen a vague story about being lost in the forest. They go to bed that night. He lays a double-edged sword between them. She finds it strange, but accepts it. Shortly after that, a couple days later or so, he goes out hunting to find his brother. Everything happens just like it did before. Sees a white deer, gives chase, gets lost, fire, witch in the tree. She tells him to hit his animals in the wand, but he's suspicious, this one. He tells her to come down or he'll shoot, and she cackles. He shoots and the lead shot does no damage, so he tears off 3 silver buttons from his coat, loads them into the gun, and shoots her out of the tree. Forces her to take him to his brother and revive all the stone people. They all rejoice, take her wand, and burn her. Once dead, the forest returns to normal. It's no longer this magical dark maze. So, brothers are reunited. They're heading back to the castle, and they're telling each other what they've been up to. The youngest says he slayed a dragon, became king of the land, and the elder says he knows and explains how he came to the kingdom, pretending to be him, and had to eat with the queen and sleep in their bed. Youngest is instantly insanely jealous, beheads the elder, instantly regrets it, sends the heir for more of that magical healing route 200 miles away. They bring the slain brother back to life, and he doesn't even know what happened. He was beheaded, brought back to life, and never even realized it. So,
wait, is it Wednesday? I thought it was Tuesday. No. Shut up. Okay.
So they decided to be announced as having arrived from 2 opposite gates for reasons. The king and the princess are confused. The 2 brothers enter within their menageries. After some debate, the princess realizes her true husband by the animal's collars. Later that night, the princess asks why he's laid a double-edged sword between them in bed these last several nights, and the younger realizes his brother had been true all along. The freaking end.
Do you have a grade, Mike?
Oh, God, I don't know. I liked it. It's entertaining. I was kind of in that sort of A- B+ territory.
Yeah, I gave it a B.
Yeah.
I liked it too, but it was long. And while I appreciate the brothers Grimm taking left turns all the time, and in this case, kind of shitting all over cops, this crooked cop shows up. But don't worry, we kill him in the end, so it's hilarious. Dude comes back to life. He fucks off for a year. Why not just go confront the marshal right away? And he doesn't even. It's not like he needs the money, because he gets a visit from the Gold Piece Ferry every night. Length
That's true.
aside,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so did they. So did the brothers Grimm. I think there's some light editing we could do to tighten it up a bit.
It's like 3 to 5 stories, really.
Yeah. You could get rid of the original fathers.
Yeah. Unless it's just intended to be a trick. Here's the 2 brothers. Oh, but it's not.
Oh, it's about the nephews.
The other brothers.
And the bit with the silver bullets for the witch, which is
happens
never
if
really
you put
explained.
You know what happens if you put a button in a gun and fire it?
Well, this is a musket, I'm guessing.
Oh, all right.
So you just jam. I mean, it's the same thing. I think this is more going to end up like shot, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I could start on the ATU types if you want, because there's quite a few. Yeah.
I imagine there are.
Twins or the Blood Brothers. A little bit of 567, the Magic Bird Heart. Saw a little 130 in there, which is Animals in New Quarters, the same one that's Brementown Musicians, where we get a menagerie of animals just kind of traveling around. 300, the Dragon Slayer, which always has a little bit of 530, Princess on the Glass Mountain in it. Little Abandoned Children, little Hansel and Gretel.
Mm-hmm.
Sword in the Stone randomly. Like, that was the other thing. Like,
yeah.
So he has to drink these 3 wine cups, and then we're never told really anything more. Or lead up to it. It's just, well, we're going to need to give him a sword at some point. I'm like, well, he's got a gun.
Who put the cups there?
Do you have a moral?
I'm hoping you do.
I do. So, and then here's the moral. Don't get too angry about something until you truly know the actuality of the tale.
Yeah.
And this is a moral that pro wrestlers would do well to pay attention to.
Don't immediately react.
No, yeah. I know you don't watch a lot of pro wrestling.
No.
But the issue, of course, like, is that it's a taped show. It's like with replays. And not only that, but like watching replays is an in-universe thing that they do. Like,
right.
Like they're like if you were to tell me, oh, like in
they're
this universe,
aware they're on camera.
Yeah, they're aware they're on camera. They're aware they're speaking into microphones. They got the Titantron right above you. It's a giant TV.
Just look
They'll-
up.
They'll
It's
play
there
it.
right now.
Yeah, they'll say this is what happened earlier. Just hang out at
Just-
Gorilla.
Just watch the recap next week.
Yeah. They get angry and they temporarily decapitate someone only to feel a bit bad and bring him back to life with some magic roots.
I wish I
The
could
next
temporarily
day.
decapitate people.
Do you have any other notes?
Oh, I got a bunch. There
All
was
right, let's-
there was so
let's-
much I
let's-
had to leave out just to get through the summary
Okay.
without too many tangents, but like minor question.
Yes.
But the two original brothers are billed as good and honorable and rich and evil, right?
Yep.
And almost immediately, the good and honorable one is throwing rocks at birds.
I mean,
It's just like,
yeah, he's not a friend of the animals.
Yeah.
And so it's it. But that said, it's not bad. It's not as bad as abandoning your children, which he then does
oh yeah, no, I suppose he
a
does
page
that.
and a half later.
We shouldn't be that troubled by his behavior.
Which is another thing. Although, like, weirdly enough, Grimm is totally fine with if the dad abandons the children, because
Yeah.
that happened in Hansel and Gretel. At the end of the story of Hansel and Gretel, they were like, "Oh, Dad, we know you didn't want to abandon us. It was that evil girl the whole time." Maybe they had daddy issues, but maybe they felt like, yeah, dad abandoning their son, that's forgivable. I have abandoned several of my children. How about you, Wilhelm?
You also mentioned before we started recording about a good human, not just an animal.
There was like a genuinely good, no hitches person in this story, the huntsman.
Oh, yeah.
Just like comes across two orphan boys abandoned in the woods, hears them out, and like, and they produce gold, and he does nothing. He just like sets it aside for if they ever want to leave home one day, they'll have a stockpile of money to take with them.
Yeah.
He's just like, okay, you're my sons now. Teaches them to hunt, raises them, feeds them, clothes them, houses them, and like it never takes any of the gold, never asks for anything in return. Nothing weird happens later on. He's just a cool guy.
Yeah, I like to think that they went back at some point. Like
Yeah, I'd like
after
to
he
think so
became
too.
king, he's like, all right, go, like send out some servants, like go find my real dad, not my bio dad. Like go find the man that raised me.
Math.
Okay.
So whoever eats the heart and the liver of this gold bird gets a gold piece under his pillow or under their pillow every morning for the rest of their life.
Yep.
The kids each eat one of those and they both get a gold piece. They've doubled money where there wasn't going to be money. See what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
the,
no,
the,
I
the guy
fully
wasn't going to
understand,
get the guy wasn't going to get two gold pieces under his pillow every morning. And I know I'm being petty, but it bothered me.
No, I'm sorry that it bothered you. Yeah, no, I don't have anything to say. I mean, I guess it teaches you to share. If the king had shared one of the organs with his wife, he would have had two gold pieces.
Oh.
They would have had two gold pieces.
The one thing I didn't mention at all because it was just a random detail, but it has to be mentioned, is that the lions, or at least the lion of the youngest brother, loves to get drunk. Like he's the one that goes to get the wine. I think there was something about it earlier in the story too. I can't remember.
Yeah,
what it
no,
was,
he
but-
straight up says, "Dear lion, you yourself like to drink till you're drunk." Says you're
That's what it
intoxicated.
was.
Yeah, go and fetch me some wine, such that the wine is drunk by the king. The lion just rolls through the streets, goes to the cupbearer, and is like, "Give me some wine." And the cupbearer brings him some. He's like, "Not this peasant swill." First of all, let me try that wine. Give me that wine. So, cupbearer's like, "Oh, this is the lion. What does this lion know of wine?" And that was the cupbearer was annoyed because
Yeah.
I would be too if the lion,
And the
So
lion
the-
goes
and then-
through like 3 bottles. He's like,
Yeah,
no,
they go
no,
through a
not
bunch
this
of
one
bottles.
either.
He's like, no, I need the better wine. And then finally, he's like, all right, here's the good stuff. He's like, oh yeah, this is stuff. All right, I'm gonna bring this back to my candy cup.
Oh yeah, like every animal, it gives a different reason why the animal can't carry the product through the city. Like they have to have a guard go and carry it, and then they hand it over either at the inn or at the city gate or something.
Yeah.
And the lion, it just says the lion's too drunk to carry the wine. Another one,
Oh yes.
which it served no purpose, and I don't understand it, is so the marshal comes and beheads the hunter while he's sleeping, the
Yep.
younger, steals the princess. And then the animals wake up. They all blame each other for falling asleep on the job. Then they figure out the rabbit's like, I know where I can get this magical root. Goes out to get the root to come back. They put the hunter back together and they put the root in his mouth and he pops back up and his head's on backwards.
Yeah.
Then they kill him again and put the head round the right way and then put the root back in his mouth and he comes back. it never explains why that charade had to happen. And for storytellers who are so tight on fluff,
Yeah.
it was very ungrim.
That was the one slapsticky thing I mentioned like
Oh,
earlier on,
yeah,
where
yeah.
like which was like straight up from, I mean, I remember from the movie Spaceballs.
President
And
Scroob.
then President Scroob gets beamed to the bridge and he's like, you idiots, my head's on backwards. Beam me back. It was such just a one-off joke. You idiot animals, you put my head on backward. and then they never bring it up again. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, guy. Just close your eyes real quick. Slash.
Be right back.
All right, let's put his head around right the correct way. Okay.
But yeah, I think that's about all the notes I've got. There's not a lot about this
No.
that's been put down. Part of it is because if you Google Two Brothers Grimm, you don't get the story. You just get the biography of Jacob and Wilhelm.
Yeah, there's not a lot of research into this. I think because there's so many parts that are just a singular story somewhere else that they can really delve into. And also it's just like there's only so many stories that people seem to like. I think people don't like this one because it's long.
Yeah.
There's no one to grab onto. There's no named characters. No one really learns anything.
The youngest brother learns that the eldest brother did not screw his wife.
Yeah.
There's that at least.
But
that's the only thing.
He killed his brother before finding out the tale. Didn't even ask his brother.
Now he feels really bad about beheading him.
Although not that bad because he came right back to life.
Yeah.
I do have a pitch.
Ooh, yeah. What do you got?
If you want to hear it.
I do.
Clearly, I think the easiest thing would just be to write a short story about what happened to the other brother and his animals.
There's very little about him.
There's nothing about him other than he shows up. He had his own tales and showed up, and I was like, as I was reading, I said, well, there it is. Okay, I'll figure out something. So brother one's tale. Find the town, hear about the dragon, and the reward for killing the dragon. Go and use your animal army, find a sword, kill the dragon, save the girl. But get betrayed by an evil police officer. And he gets betrayed, comes back to life, goes out traveling a bit, comes home just in time to save his fiancée, and then there's the random ass witch and the extra bit of hunting, but that aside. Okay. So Brothers Two tale. While Brother One had a wonderful romp through a Renaissance fair, Brother Two, this tale is going to lean a lot more steampunk. Ooh. So he finds a town which appears rich in industry, electric lights, all sorts of things. He stands out like a sore thumb, but he's not the first person to wander this way from Germany proper. That said, he's the first one with a menagerie of animals. So he's he's treated like this kind of curiosity. The town, though, is heavily taxed by the philosopher upon the hill. Philosopher's kind of a wizard who keeps the town just poor enough that they can't really advance any further than the steampunk era that they're at. They can't finish their greatest work either, the totalizer, a thinking machine. Something that would render the philosopher useless. But he doesn't want that. He needs to be the middleman, and so do the thugs he employs as his cabinet. So the leader of the townsfolk and head of the Artificers' Union says, if you and your friends can free us from the philosopher, we will grant you great riches. So off he goes up the hill, asks for a meeting with the philosopher. The meeting is granted, and the hunter says, I come asking you to free the townsfolk from your tyrannical rule. And the philosopher says, oh, and what are you going to do if I say no? And the brother says, oh, I don't know. This, and then just shoots the guy in the face. and then his bear and the lion go apeshit on the rest of the thugs, and you can have like a little bit where the bunny's also tugging at someone's shoe. They kill all them, but the sheriff of the town was hiding in the closet because he's a coward. Still, brother walks down the hill, he's like finished, and the townsfolk, they give him their two greatest inventions, a flying car and a mechanical valet, and he decides he should go check on his brother. However, on the night before he was to set out, after carousing with the artificers in celebration, here comes the sheriff, who sabotages the car. Next morning, the brother wakes up, he gets in the car, and they say, okay, you know how to fly this thing, yeah? And he says, well, not really. And they say, good lad. And they push the button. And off he shoots into the sky. And almost immediately, the car sputters out due to the sabotage, starts falling. Luckily, the mechanized valet says, I'll save you, my liege. And he employs his parachute. He's holding the defunct aircraft in one hand and the hunter in the other, along with the bear who's holding the lion and the fox, and they're all hanging out. Now, the strain's too great. The robot drops the car. We cut to the sheriff, who was just outside smoking a pipe and chuckling to himself, saying, I guess the sky wasn't the limit for him. Where, wherever he falls, there he shall be buried. But then the car just drops on his head and kills him. Then a gust of wind blows him back out of the enchanted area of the steampunk world. The robot and the crew, they land gently on the ground just near the tree with the knife in it. But the robot, now without power to recharge his battery, he winds down. Brother and his animals, they go check on the knife, and then we're back into the regular story.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Little Wizard of Oz.
Little Wizard of Oz, a little slapsticky,
Yeah, definitely.
which I felt was okay because they did that.
Yeah, the car coming out of the air is a Hitchhiker's Guide. Oh, it's raining again.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Is that a vehicle in the air? Is that a Jaguar in the air?
Spaceballs. Oh, there goes the neighborhood.
Is that a lion? Oh, I believe they're called Jaguars, sir. No. Oh, gosh. So that's my pitch. I hope I don't think I can get Hollywood to buy that because, and I'll tell you why. Hollywood doesn't seem to really like steampunk all that much. I think they toyed with it a little bit in the movie The Wild Wild West.
True.
And that was such a bomb that we just never toiled with it again.
That was a bomb?
I think so.
I thought that was a treasure. Or
The
is it
Wild
one of
Wild
those
West?
like it got popular on VHS?
With Will Smith?
Yeah.
I don't think
Kevin
think
Kline?
it got popular. Yeah, I don't think it got popular ever. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 16%
You're kidding me.
with an average of 4.
I'm not being facetious. I'm genuinely surprised. I thought everybody loved that movie.
No, fans hated it too.
Fans of what?
Fans of everything, even fans of steampunk, especially
Fans of good movies.
fans of good movies, fans of steampunk, fans of Will Smith.
I will say the Kevin Smith story about the guy who directed Wild Wild West,
Barry Sonnenfeld.
probably better than Wild Wild West itself.
I think, yeah, just the bonkers tale of a guy that just really loves spiders and was destined. He's just no
And
matter
hates
what,
capes.
before I die, I'm gonna have a goddamn spider in one of my movies. It's gonna be big. People are gonna think it's the best thing ever.
And someday it's gonna screw over Phil because
Hollywood's not gonna buy my pitch, but I could put that in. I could make a little short story out of that. I bet.
Yeah,
might be fun.
You just need
Um,
you need to know the other one.
You would
Yeah,
need,
the
yeah. Oh, I guess, yeah. You could do both. I could make a Ren Fair version. Yeah, I could tighten up the first one.
Yeah.
Do those
Oh,
edits we talked
definitely.
about earlier, and then
Yeah.
do that, and then do that one, and kind of run them side by side and see where the
Yeah, it
parallels
works.
go.
I like it.
Anyways, if there is nothing left to say about the story, I think we can call it. Before we do that, however, Mike, is there a way for anyone to contact us if they have thoughts they wish to share about this episode?
Absolutely. We can be reached at brothersdimpodcast@gmail.com. And we're also on Blue Sky at Brothers Dim. And
Yeah.
Sneak peek surprise, I have been working diligently on a Brothers Dim website, which will be
Ooh.
coming sometime soon.
Well, I'm stoked about that. This is actually literally the first I've heard about it, and I'm very excited.
Really? I thought I sent you like a screenshot or something a while ago.
It's very possible that you did,
Hmm.
but
Well.
it's also possible that I was doing a bit of drinking that day.
We are only people after all.
That's true. Well, thank you, Mike, and thanks to all of our fans for listening. This has been story number 60, The Two Brothers, the final episode of season 4 of the Brothers Dim podcast.
Good gracious. We've been
I
doing this
know
a while.
it's been crazy. So I'm excited. We may take it is coming up on the holidays. We may take I know we've been a little slapdash with our episode releases, and I apologize to all of our fans for listening. This has been story number 60, The Two Brothers. Sleep tight, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.